gon' make some moves tonight. Yeah, stand up, got something to prove tonight. So stand up, we ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright. We ain't gonna stall, never stop. We gon' make it all till it's out. We ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright.
Happy Monday morning. My name is Scott Schertzen with Streampunk Soccer, and joining me once again, USL sports writer and cover of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, Mr. Bill Akins. We're going to be talking a bunch of stuff today. We're going to be talking USL, possibility of a strike. We'll be talking World Cup ticket prices, and more than that, not just that, but also World Cup handicap parking, because holy crap, they're actually charging an arm and a leg to be handicapped, and a little MLS review as well. So as we roll into it, sir, how the heck are you?
I'm doing good, Scott. How are you? It's great to be with you here this Monday morning.
Feelings mutual, sir. So, all right. So let's break this down right out of the gate here. World Cup has been getting a lot of flack lately, and not just flack because of, how things are being handled, but also because of the general lack of interest that's going on here. So in this area, you're out of Pittsburgh, so you're not seeing this as much as we are, but a big deal was made when Jersey City, which is local to this area, made the announcement that they're going to be canceling the World Cup Fan Fest to save money because they didn't feel that the turnout was worth the security and the cost and everything else involved. Much to the delight of a lot of the local residents who were like, "Good, we don't have to front the bill." So it's been a little bit of a concern there. The prices have been a concern. Security has been a concern, and now the latest thing that's come down, and this is the part that I really want to break into, is the World Cup parking costs have been astronomical, and the World Cup handicap parking is between $150 and upwards of $300 for handicap parking.
Unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable. I mean, boy, they're hell-bent on never having the World Cup here again, aren't they? I mean, it's just like, I mean, how you could do that I mean, first of all, we all have seen the ticket prices and just the price gouging that's going on with that. And now, now you're going to gouge, people that are disabled.
Wheelchair.
Yeah. I mean, literally that's what you're going to do. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, you're not going to discount any of these handicap accessible spaces. You're gonna basically have them at the same as general parking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were talking about, you could see like in SoFi Stadium, for instance, it's going to be $250 to $300 for these spots. MetLife, $225. Right. Yeah. It's unbelievable. I just don't understand why they would do this. I mean, it's, and here's the thing. How about FIFA come in and put a stop to this? I mean, God, they want to control everything else. Why don't they come in and say, hey, this is not cool. This is not something you should be doing. Yeah. No, instead, they're saying, oh, well, it reflects supply and demand, and this is common industry practice across major live events in the U.S. No, it's not. Not at this price. I'm just not. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, this was the article that came down via The Athletic, but in this case, this is Yahoo Sports, that talked about the fact that even at Hard Rock Stadium down in Florida, group stage parking is going to go from $75 to $175, and parking can go as high as $250. And like I said, as far as that's just regular parking, by the way. I just want to point that out. But yeah, in this case, reading it off here, more controversial still is the treatment of ADA designed parking or designated parking. Accessible spaces for disabled fans are being sold at the same rates as general parking, ranging from $125 to what you mentioned, $300 depending on the venue. So SoFi in LA is between $250 to $300 just to park if you're handicapped.
Right.
And that says nothing about the ticket prices, possible cost of trying to get there from wherever you're coming from. Also pointing out the fact that LA is a driving nightmare on top of that anyway.
Well, yeah,
If you've
absolutely.
ever experienced that.
Yep. I have.
This is turning into this could be a nightmare in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah. Hey, look, let's talk about general ticket prices. Okay, you had starting high and final tickets ranging from 2,000 to 8,000, with some even resales at being exceeding. Okay, if you can believe this, 140,000.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just this is just being this is ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous.
let me pull that up. Actually, I have that one too.
Yeah.
There we go.
You want to grow this sport in this country, and you and I've talked about my gripes with the MLS and how they do some things, but you have a golden opportunity, to grow this sport in this country. I mean, we all saw what had happened in '94. It led. I mean, obviously, it was kind of mandatory that they, they're like, hey, you've got to have a league, in order to have, it was done in good faith. Like, hey, yeah, you can have the World Cup here in '94, but a league needs to be established, and it was. But my point is like, if you're trying to grow this sport and you're trying to you're trying to grow this sport in this country. I mean, Mexico, I would say it's already, one of their number one sports down there. Canada, I don't know. I mean, Canada, soccer's up there, but obviously hockey's, but here, I mean, when you look at it, soccer's probably what? I mean,
fifth or sixth. Yeah, I would say so.
Sixth. Yeah.
I think even you could argue the UFL might even be higher than MLS to some degree.
Right. Yeah, it's surprisingly, but I mean, not really surprisingly, but my point is, if you have a golden opportunity to grow this sport, especially, here we are in 2026 with the MLS being, in the top 10 in leagues in the world right now, you have a golden opportunity to grow this sport, and yet you're pricing the common fan out of the equation.
Yeah,
you were just
the world though in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but it's not the correct way in my opinion. But you're pricing the common fan completely out of the equation, and I mean to do this to people that are handicapped, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and in FIFA, like I said, FIFA could step in and say, no, you're not going to do this. This is not the right, this is not how you should be doing things. Instead, they're saying, oh no, well, it's justifiable. It's justifiable. This is supply and demand, and this is common practice. Doesn't make it right. I mean, and I mean, this is just, I can't believe that we're reading this and that we're seeing this,
Yeah, I'm not overly surprised. Now, FIFA head honcho Gianni Infantino did say, like you said, it was designed to, match everything else on the planet. Now, Super Bowl recently, I believe the handicap parking was $120. So, by comparison, to get an idea of what it's like. Now, granted, World Cup on a worldwide stage is bigger worldwide than Super Bowl would be. Obviously, here in the U.S., Super Bowl would be higher, but the fact that even 120 would be high. But what he also stated was the fact that to make tickets more affordable, regular tickets, 10% of the tickets would run for $60. 60 is not a brutal number for an event like this. However, only 10% of the tickets would be $60, and that was already after its own fan backlash. So you had fan backlash about prices, or about ticket prices. Now you got fan backlash about handicap parking. You have large locations in the state where your final is going to be. They're canceling their Fan Fest event because of the issues that are going on, to the support of the residents who were like, cool, we don't have to spend money on this now. There's so many issues that are going on with this. There's so many concerns and so many just black marks on all of this FIFA 2026, World Cup resume right now, that, like you said, who knows when it's going to come back here, because Lord knows if anybody's going to be able to afford it.
Well, yeah, and I keep going back to, you're trying to grow this sport, you know, and you I said, I hate to sound like a broken record, but you have a golden opportunity here. You have the World Cup, in your backyard, and you're making it. You're not doing anything by. You're not doing this sport any justice. You're just not. You're not. You know, who knows how many. I mean, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, but families that maybe have some young soccer players that are just getting into the sport, coming and seeing the World Cup live, a once in a lifetime event. Who knows what could come out of that, in terms of just growing the sport, in terms of, hey, this is a game that I want to devote my life to. It's just, we hear it all the time. We hear it all the time about some of these athletes in other sports who, went to a game and okay, I was hooked, and this is what I wanted to devote my life to. The same situation could happen with this event, and you're making it you're taking, like I said, you're taking the common fan out of the equation. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Now, looking at World Cup 2022 in this case here, ticket prices usually ran from $70 to $1,600. So it's been a massive inflation bump between 4 years ago and now, because now at this point, even the low tier for even the finals is at $700 on the low tier side of it, and then the upper tier could be $15,000 to $18,000 per ticket for that final.
Well, let me ask you this too, and this is kind of maybe even a completely separate subject. We're talking about the black marks that we're seeing with the World Cup and everything like that. What about Mexico? What is it? We all know that the kind of the unrest that's going on in Mexico. How is that going to affect? How is that going to affect it?
There's North America. Let me put it this way. 2/3 of North America is in the throes of basically civil unrest in some form or another.
Right.
Obviously, the U.S. has now decided that Iran is our enemy, and obviously that just happened over the weekend. Right. So there's a lot of concerns in a lot of different ways. Mexico, the U.S., you have, with the exception of, I think, 2 locations, Vancouver and Toronto, all of the matches themselves are going to be played in areas where there's a lot of political and a lot of safety concerns. I mean, right now for me, I'm 15 minutes away from MetLife Stadium. I got a little concern of my own here. Yeah. The fans might be a little crazy. Who knows what's going to go on? And there's going to be so many chaotic things. Maybe Robin and I should take a vacation. I'm not sure yet. Maybe.
Well, I mean, my point. I guess I don't know. And then I guess maybe their justification. I mean, and maybe I'm completely off on this, but maybe their justification for doing this is, well, hey, we're gonna make these tickets expensive. We're going to gouge them in parking to keep the riffraff out. Maybe this is their way of saying, hey, we're gonna keep the riffraff out by doing this. Maybe
And I think also, as I think about it now, and you brought up, you kind of planted a seed in my head. I think the people that can afford tickets like this are not necessarily going to be going as fans, but rather going to be going as a business transaction to woo somebody else for another deal. You see it even with, like, say, Sports Illustrated Field, Red Bull Arena over in Harrison. What used to be the press area, which was arguably one of the best press areas in the country, because it was right midfield, right there. They got rid of that, moved us to a different location, and then used that for executive seating. I'm hearing the same thing with Etihad Park right now. A bunch of us are going to have a bunch of people have a meeting tomorrow with Brad Sims, who's the president of NYCFC. This is going to be a conversation that's going to be coming up in regards to ticket prices for the fans. How this is going to be, designed for international business people. Red Bull Arena is now being used, obviously, for a lot of people flying in to Newark Airport to woo people because Red Bull's a big entity, as is Etihad Park. So the people that are going to World Cup that can afford $10,000 a ticket may not necessarily be fans. They might
Correct.
be doing it to try and lock down multi-billion-dollar deals.
And that's my point. You're trying to grow this. Well, you say you're trying to grow the sport. I don't know. I mean, the jury's still out on that. I don't know that you're necessarily with making moves like this. I have my doubts on whether you're really committed to growing the sport in this country. I just do. I mean, but if you are, this is definitely not the way to do it. This is definitely not the you're definitely not. This is totally not the way to do it. But yeah, I mean, I just and this is a way for people to take advantage of this event because let's face it, it is a once in a lifetime event. We don't know when the World Cup's going to be back here again. I mean, it's been 30 years, 30 something years since we've had a World Cup, 94. So I mean, this is a big thing. I mean, sometimes I think the common American doesn't understand really how big this is. Okay. You got to look at it from the standpoint of this is the global game. Okay. This is the global game. What is it? 4.5 billion.
Yeah.
A little over half of the world's population identifies as soccer fans. Okay. So, I mean, this sport transcends all other sports by leaps and bounds. And I just don't think, sometimes I don't think that the common American, if you will, understands the magnitude of this event. I mean, I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, I think that from that standpoint, yeah, there's people out there that are going to take advantage of this, and they are doing that. And obviously, with some of these prices, they are doing this. But I just think we got to look at the bigger picture here.
If you look at this also, I think part of it is the fact that people in the United States typically are not as excited about sports they didn't invent. If you look at the big three sports in this country, NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball, all three were invented here. Yet the worldwide sports, the bigger ones, cricket, Olympics, obviously soccer, I mean, things like this. These are sports that were invented outside the U.S. that don't have a lot of flavor here. Hockey.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So these are sports that as people in the United States, they're less interested in. Not to say they're not interested, but if you look at cricket in Asia and Europe versus here, I mean, people have to be taught what cricket is.
Right.
Yet you have somebody from England, they have to be taught how baseball is. I literally had to do, no joke, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I literally had to explain to Naomi Watts once about how baseball worked, and I had to use cricket as an explanation of how it worked. This literally happened. It was something with Russell Crowe way back like 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. But she's like, I have no idea she's sitting in the stands. She's like, I have no idea what's going on in the scene. And I had to explain baseball to her. Highlight of my life. I got to admit, it's kind of funny.
But here's the other. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, as a result, sports that are exciting outside the U.S. don't carry as much weight over here.
Yeah, but you know what? Isn't it funny? I mean, I'm 45 years old. I grew up. I played soccer when I was a kid. I mean, we're talking 87, 88, right? First and second grade. I was, the same league my daughter plays in. 5 miles down the road, I played in as a kid.
Nice.
But to me, in this country, and I see this all the time. Like, for instance, my high school never really had a soccer program. They now have it's a club sport for girls, and that's all they have. Girls soccer, club sport. They have to pay to use the field. They make it next to impossible for them. But my thing is you see a lot. I mean, there's a lot of youth soccer programs in this country, tons of them. But it's almost like we have the mentality in this country that, okay, you can play soccer from 6 years old to 13, but once you hit 13, you got to choose something else. It's almost like
No, I did.
It's almost like growing out of like, hey, you can't play with GI Joes anymore, right? You can't play with Barbies anymore. You're 13 years old. It's almost like that same mentality with soccer. It's like,
Mm.
oh, this is a young kid's game just to keep you in shape, to kind of get you ready for other sports that are the football, the basketball, the baseball. It almost seems like we have that mentality in this country, like, oh well, once you hit a certain age, you're too old for soccer. Like, I mean, and not in all cases. I mean, not in all cases. I think it's getting better. I think you're seeing more high school. More. There's still more high school soccer. There's college is starting to get gain some popularity and everything like that. But it's still very behind. It's still behind those three sports that you mentioned: football, basketball, and baseball. It's still behind, and that's
You're,
the way I kind of look at it.
it's funny. Just quick a side note on that. When I was a kid, I did 3 years of soccer, and then immediately there was no more soccer program, so I went over to Little League for 3 years.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's funny 'cause I
Yeah.
didn't think about that till you mentioned it, but yeah, my God,
Yeah.
even I went through that.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you grow out. Like, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, you're not a kid anymore. You need to stop playing soccer. I mean, and I mean, that's just the wrong. That's the wrong way. I mean, that's the wrong way. And I think I don't know, this day and age where you have so much accessibility at the palm of your hands. People 30 years ago, 40 years ago, didn't really know. If you were a soccer fan, it was hard for you to follow like Premier League and things like that.
Sure.
Back in the 90s, right? You would catch it occasionally on ESPN2, stuff like that. But now it's so easy, it's so accessible. But yet, I don't know. We're still I mean, we've made progress, but we're still having a lot of trouble. Uh, we're still having a lot of trouble. You know, building this sport in this country for some reason. I don't know why.
In fairness, though, I mean, over the last 30 years since Major League Soccer started back in '96, the league has grown and has showcased, maybe not so much to the world, but at least locally. I mean, the attendance is more or less going up every year. They broke a million. Um, I think an average. I forget the number, but it was an average per stadium. I think it was like a million last year. So the ticket number, the numbers are going up. The viewership as soccer across the board, not just MLS, but USL, NWSL, it is growing because of its accessibility and ease, like you mentioned. Premier League. I mean, NBC has this thing, and you probably saw it, there where it's like 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, when there's nothing else going on. You got like Man City versus, like, say, Nottingham Forest. And they have the biggest and the best in a time slot where a lot of people will sit there and be like, all right, I'll throw it on in the background while playing on my phone. Something happens, you look up, you rewind, fine. But I think in some ways the sport is growing, but not in the way that they expected necessarily initially when they started this whole thing out. Because it's much more of an interesting casual sport than it is like an impassioned one.
Right. And I mean, as well as I do, way, way back in the day, the only way you were ever going to see soccer on television is if they occasionally showed it on the Worldwide of Sports, right? Like they
Yep.
like 3 times a year, they would show like a big game, like they would show the El Clasico, or they would show a World Cup game. That was the only time, or they would show Pele with the New York Cosmos, something like that. I mean, that was the only time you would ever see any kind of soccer. Now, like I said, it's so easily accessible, but it still seems like we're having a little bit of trouble growing the sport. You and I talked about it the other day, not even on air. You and I talked about the other day about how the MLS could be doing so much better. It's hard to it's hard to watch games now. I mean, you're having you gotta have the Apple TV subscription. Used to be, hey, you could have the MLS subscription without buying the whole package. Now they changed that. Oh no, you have to have Apple TV. Well, what if people don't want Apple TV? People like me that I don't have anything Apple at all. And I but I still want to watch MLS. You and I talked about it before. Sirius XM. I'm a big Sirius XM listener, right? And I know a lot of people that listen to Sirius XM. I know a lot of people that get their sports news from Sirius XM, right? Because it's so easy. You got the NFL channel, the NHL channel, the MLB channel. Why doesn't MLS have their own channel?
Mm.
I mean, this is a league that's been around for 30 plus years. Why don't you have your own? You have one channel, 157 FC, that covers all of soccer, covers everything.
Mm.
And I mean, to me, they should have the MLS should have their own channel. They should talk. I mean, because hey, we know it. There's a lot of
Different feelings out
storylines
of
in
the
the
year,
MLS. Yeah, there's a lot of storylines in the MLS. You could have games on there as well. You could have like a match day. Saturday match day. Hey, we're gonna have 4 matches. It's I don't
How
know.
do we go about getting something that we're doing here on Sirius?
Yeah. I just don't. I don't get it. I mean, it's just. It's almost like they really they say, hey, how can we make this the most difficult for the fans? Like, how can we just, and it's just, to me, it's so counterproductive.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, like I said, the league is growing and it's getting there. And I think the change in schedule to have a finale in May, I think long-term would be beneficial because there's no competition at that point. There's no NFL, there's no NBA, there's no NHL. All you have is Major League Baseball a month and a half into the season where interest has waned a little bit by that point, where baseball is much more of a routine. You have the UFL, you got to focus on the UFL there, but the UFL is not in its own final at that point. That would be June.
Right.
So you have a good little niche, spot to drop your MLS Cup final in. So really there's no competition at that point. You're not even dealing with college basketball.
Yeah, and you don't even have NBA or NHL because, like you said, their finals are in June. Yeah, so
yeah. I mean, I remember actually the first, I think, what was it? The first MLS match of the season was Atlanta United versus, I forget who it was. They had to, I think, they had to actually postpone the start of the game by about 35 minutes because the Texas Tech basketball game went too long.
Correct.
And it was like, okay, the start of your season has to be held off. Why? Because a bunch of college kids are playing hoops.
Right. No, I saw that actually because it's funny because that day I was working and I set MLS to record, and I'm like, man, this is like I went back and watched that game and I had to rewind. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like this thing, but yeah.
So
I mean, it's just.
I
think you're right. I think it's going to help it.
What I think isn't going to help it, though, and the help of the growth of the sport, I think, I just see a segue, so I'm going to run with it.
Yeah.
The USL. Now, this is something, in your case, you're a little more, knee-deep into this than I am because you cover the Riverhounds. You've had USL connections and access for an entire year right now. Former Riverhound player, now Indy 11 player, Eric Dick, has been all over this. Fighting for the rights of the players and maybe I think spearheaded a lot of this in some ways. But there's a possibility that the USL might actually go on strike at the start of its season. So thoughts if you got it?
Well, I mean, we're 4 days away from the season starting.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, the players right now have authorized a strike. Over just stalled talks with the collective bargaining agreement. There's been a lot of disputes, a lot of different disputes on multiple fronts. Contract buyouts being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The league is pushing for rules allowing teams to kind of unilaterally buy out contracts. Paying like 75%, I think they said in the first year, and then 50% in the rest of the subsequent years. Which the Players Association have been against that and strongly opposed that. They want wage increases. The union, the players' union, they're looking for like a 40% increase in the league minimum salary, which the league minimum salary is low. It is very low. And I can kind of see that standpoint. Health and safety is another thing that they're looking at.
Sure.
They want league-wide health insurance rather than just these varied plans that they currently have. along with they want more trainers. They want, right now you have, I think, one athletic trainer per club. They're looking to get two, which I think they should have anyways. But all of these demands put financial constraints on the league, and I get I get both sides. I really do. Also licensing and rights is another thing that they're looking at. It's we've heard it before. Name, image, and likeness. They want a massive increase from they want to be able to. From what I understand with that, they want to be able to align with other professional leagues, which right now they don't. They just don't have that. They want 12-month contracts as well. They want, so I mean, these are legitimate gripes by the Players Association. However, on the flip side of that, these are things that if you're the USL, given the landscape of the USL, and it's a tier down league from the MLS. I mean, these demands come with costs, and obviously, I mean, I think they need to come to some healthy compromise. I mean, that's how collective bargaining agreements work. I mean, not everybody's both sides aren't going to get completely and totally what they want, but you got to come to common ground. And I don't know. I mean, this could be an issue. And here's the other thing. If you do strike and you have a work stoppage, that's going to hurt them as well, because really they need these games. I mean, I don't know how they're going to afford to miss games. I just don't know how they're going to be able to do it. I mean, it's going to hurt. So I mean, if you're the players union, you got to be looking at this as well. Yes, you want your demands to be met, but also you got to look at the big picture. You can't, you can't, you've got to, you cannot, it cannot be a destructive, thing that could potentially bring the league to its knees. You've got to be sensible about it if you're the players union. So,
well, yeah, and that's, like I said, they're rolling some pretty big dice on this one, that the owners are going to cave on this. And if the owners decide to put their heels in the sand, this could be a disastrous decision here as it goes into April, even May, depending. And the fans, who I think the fans are probably a little more sympathetic here than they would be for like the upcoming player, work stoppage is going to probably happen in baseball. You got Kyle Tucker making $60 million a year right now over 4 years across. And, players, I think, with that kind of level on a work stoppage, fans are not going to be as sympathetic when they can barely pay their electric bill. They sympathize with the players a little bit more here because they know that the income is lower, the health standards are lower, the strain is just as great as at the higher level. So you might get a little more fan support, but at the same time, you're also hurting the brand itself because you came off a good season. You came off good numbers. And here you are now being like, okay, we're going to go on strike, because we need all this kind of stuff. You lose a little bit of that forward momentum, and now you got to build that back up again.
Right. I mean, like the league, I was trying to, I remember us asking this last year. I want to say the league minimum salary is like 30,000.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
And, now here's the other thing though. And so what the common fan may not know, some clubs provide housing for these players, like the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. They provide housing for them. They have apartments for them. So that kind of, that's an incentive that kind of offsets the low, minimum salary, but not every club does that. So there's, there's some issues there, but it's, you've got to look at it like this though too, and the league can push back and say, hey, here's what we made last year in revenue. I mean, your demands, in some cases may not fit, what the big picture is here. Like, it's similar to, and I hate to bring it up, but it's similar to how things are in the WNBA. These players want, hey, we want to have these big salaries, but the league's not generating that much revenue. And
now, looking at the numbers I've got here for U.S. soccer in this case, let's see. Actually, no, never mind. Scratch that. No, it's U.S. soccer. All right, never mind. I thought I actually had no soccer across the board. USL financials. Let's see. Sorry about that. I thought I had a link on that, but apparently I don't. I thought I had actual numbers, but I don't have that.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just kind of. I'm in limbo. We're ready to obviously to cover the season. We're excited. I mean, the Riverhounds coming off a championship year last year, and the momentum. I mean, we're excited about it, and now you're hearing that, hey, we may have a work stoppage. It's kind of disheartening. It makes me concerned.
Yeah.
It makes me concerned because I know that the ramifications may be, it may be pretty serious, and it may. I hate to say it, but it may cripple the league.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope. I know that that they're currently, the CBA expired on December 31st. The parties are currently using a federal mediator to reach an agreement. Hopefully, they can come to some compromise, and they're going to have to. Both sides are going to have to give a little. I think.
Sure. And that's the whole thing too. Yeah, you shoot for the moon. You shoot for the moon. You land with what you can take.
Right.
But the question is, again, how long is this going to last? Because the other part of it as well is, I mean, okay, we'll use Pittsburgh as a weak example here, but the Pirates are right around the corner at spring training. Now the Pirates, I'm sorry, I root for them every year, as a soft spot, but the Pirates are a perennial disappointment.
Right.
But the point being is that other places out there that have sports, basically baseball and also USL, you can easily find one sport to replace the other.
Right.
I mean, in the 11 we talked about, yeah.
And I mean, when you look at the case of where we're at, I mean, we have record sellouts.
Yeah.
I mean, we it's a small stadium, but I mean, we have record sellouts. We have rabid fans. And but some of these other cities don't. Some of these other cities don't have the fan base that we have. And I just,
you're like top 5, I think, nationwide typically.
Right. And I mean, here's the thing. This could lead to like a snowball effect where the league may say, okay, you guys want all this, you want this, and this. You want your salaries increased. Okay, we're going to have to cut a couple teams then. We may have to eliminate a few teams that, I mean, that might happen as well. I mean, there might be some fallout with this, And I know the Players Association, I can assure you they know what the potential ramifications are. But, you have to look at it. Is it worth it?
Now, what I may do over the weekend, since NYCFC has their home opener on Saturday, is I may grab a couple minutes with Todd Donovan, who's the new general manager for the team at this point, sporting director. Previous to that, he was a sporting director for a lot of years for Sacramento, which did lead the league in ticket sales and also in attendance. So I might get his thoughts and see how he feels about it. But with Sacramento, they have the A's right now. So you switch from, basically a good team, leading the league as far as the ticket sales and attendance goes. This could be the benefit of the Sacramento or Oakland A's.
Right. Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
So
it's gonna be it'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping that they don't have a work stoppage because I'm very excited about it.
Sure.
I love going down there and covering this team, and it's just I love it, and I'm hoping that that there's not. I think that honestly, I think that Pittsburgh, if something does happen and there's serious ramifications, I think that this club will be fine. But there might, like I said, there might be some other clubs that not so much.
Sure. Yeah, it'll remain to be seen, but I'm very curious to see what happens here. But ironically, if you're a pure soccer standpoint, it could benefit the NWSL and MLS to a slight degree.
Yeah.
But I think it's more of a benefit to the other sports in those areas, including, like I said, if there's a baseball team.
Correct. I agree with that. Yeah.
So, But like I said, if I get a chance, I'll ask Todd Donovan about it this weekend because, again, he's probably he's not tied to Sacramento anymore, but he still has a lot of connections to a lot of people who are dealing with this. So I'll see if I can get his thoughts on a couple of things. So, all right. Any other thoughts before we move on to probably the final topic?
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. All right. So we are already basically 2 matches into the season at this point. We've had an interesting run so far. With the example of basically Inter Miami getting crushed in the first match, but rebounding last week.
Yeah.
See if I can pull up a couple of the power rankings here for a second. So San Jose, who I have a swap spot for. This is, by the way, the Sports Illustrated power ranking, just the top 10. But Timo Werner is obviously showcasing with everything over there. Congrats, Ted Ramey. I'm sure you're excited. But San Jose is an exciting team again. I love it. The last 2 seasons, they've been something special.
Right. Yeah, and they're long overdue. I mean, it's been a little bit of a drought for them. I can remember back in when they had Landon Donovan. God, they were a powerhouse year in and year out, and it just every franchise goes through that. We know, but yeah, it's nice to see them. It's nice to see them sitting at 3rd in the Western Conference. Granted, it is early, but
it is early. Yeah, I mean, obviously, last year was an exciting year for them. Made things interesting, and also when you look at San Jose as a whole, the San Jose Sharks are a terrible team. So to have something in San Jose that you can call your own and get excited about, I think it's a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I want to say this: when you look at league wide, they had record-setting attendance. They did for match day 1. It was record-setting attendance. I mean, you had close to, I think they said it was 500,000.
Yeah.
With
Well, yeah, I was going to say from an MLS standpoint, LAFC versus Inter Miami was just a packed house and then some. Yeah. Yeah, you got Son versus Messi. But
yeah, right. Yep. So, which, and I mean, you had, talking about San Jose, you had, some of these new roster additions like Warner in San Jose, Rodriguez in Minnesota making their debuts. People come out to see it,
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, it's good for them. I'm excited for them in this case. I'm digging the New Jerseys too.
Yeah.
This one, this is basically something I was dealing with last night. Tavon Gray with a late goal scorer for NYCFC. They pull off a 2-1 win on the road. They go 1-0-1, 4 points in their first 2 games, which have to be road games. And surprisingly, holding on despite the fact they don't have Alonso Martinez or Justin Hack anymore.
Right. And we talked about it before. I mean, we talked about it the last time. This team. I mean, yeah, they've lost some, but they've gained some, and they have. I think they've got a pretty good team in place right now. So
you got to wonder.
But it's a long season.
Yeah, they're fortunate because 8 of the next 12 matches are going to be at home, so they got a chance to really ride the points at this point, playing against Orlando. Right. Also adding to it the fact that because of the snow that we had over here, their flight back from California was delayed. So they spent time over there for Coachella for several weeks. They then spent an entire another week on top of it because they had the LA Galaxy over there. So no sense coming back across and then go back out again. So they were over there for close to a month. And when they're finally ready to come back to this, to New York City side and sleep in their own bed, nope, 27 inches, they got to be delayed. So credit where it's due here. They were able to pull that off. But you know what? Like I said, it's a good match right now. I'm going to be curious to see what they do against Orlando. But so far, they're doing better than I expected they would. So.
Right. Yeah.
Seattle.
And Orlando's what 0-2 right now. I think.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Orlando's not in panic mode, but Orlando is one of those teams where they're pretty much guaranteed to land 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th, like every single year. They're not going to be at the top. They're not going to be at the bottom. They're just like dead smack in the middle. So.
But you don't want to be winless in week 3. You don't want to be,
No, you don't.
I think you kind of gotta. They're kind of, and it's not desperation mode for them, but it's kind of like, okay, guys, we've got to get something together here early in the season. We cannot have you got to kind of set the tempo early. So,
now let me know your thoughts on this one here. Seattle They have them ranked 8th right now, despite being 1 win, 1 loss so far.
Yeah.
They had the 2-0 win against Colorado over the weekend, but they lost to RSL first game out. I don't know. Does 8 feel a little bit high right now?
I don't know. It's I don't know. Like I said, it's still early in the season.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that goal by Roldan
Mhm.
was a few days ago was amazing. I mean,
Sure.
that was that was a good goal. I don't know. I mean, I'm not hitting the panic button if you're a Sounders fan. I'm just not.
Yeah, I think so. But it was just one of those things that 8 seems a little surprising for a team that basically lost their first game of the season. Maybe just my
Right.
take.
Yeah.
This, however,
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I can get behind.
Yes.
And I think for NYCFC fans, you're not going to like it, but Julian Hall has been a lot of fun.
Mhm.
3 goals so far, 17 years old. The team basically at this point is 2-0. Actually, as it happens, they are also basically the only team in the East with 6 points so far, and only one of 5 teams overall. So, credit to RBNY; they're off to a really good start.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are. Hall's been amazing. He's been absolutely amazing for them. And there's been other people that. What do you think about Klopp? I mean, people have said how maybe his job might be at risk this season. What do you think? I mean, they're saying it's a bunch of nonsense. The Red Bulls.
I think it's too early to tell. Like you said, in this case
Right.
here, it's only 2 games in. See me after 5 games. Maybe you know what? I'll say 4 games.
Right.
See where things stand at that point, and go from there.
Yeah.
Teams are closer to pull the hook though, pull the plug now than they used to be.
They are, yeah. But I just kind of thought that was. I just saw that headline a few days ago. Is Klopp's job at risk? And in the Red Bulls are saying that's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
So
I don't think so, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But like I said, for Julian Hall, 17 years old,
yeah,
I was making $4.25 an hour stocking shelves and being a cashier.
right.
You know what? Credit to him at this point for that age. So,
but
yeah,
he made history with that with the latest goal. Yeah, I mean he's so
really good start for Michael Bradley's career over there too. So kudos on that.
He's a good coach.
He's a great,
very good
really
coach.
For them.
Yeah,
get that team back to glory again.
Right.
FC Cincy, right now, I mean, 1-0-1.
Yeah.
6 might feel a little high in my mind, a little bit, but
I think
6 in this case. But
I mean, they handled Atlanta pretty good in that first game,
yeah,
shutting them out, clean sheet. In Atlanta, they're a team that I'm actually thinking they're going to be better than what they were last year. Last year they were terrible.
They're going to have to be better than last year.
Yeah,
Ronnie Viola did not do what he needed to do with that team.
Right. You've got Martino back.
Yeah,
and I think is a good step in the right direction because he was a hell of a coach for them before. What did he go? He went down to Liga MX for a while. Didn't
I believe.
he?
Yeah,
yeah. Now he's back, and I think that they're going to be a better club with him at the helm.
Sure.
But I don't know. Cincinnati handled them pretty good in that open game. So
yeah. Inter Miami goes to 5th. Again, this is one of those things where it's early in the season. They had a 4-2 win over Orlando, like we talked about briefly, but they got dismantled by LAFC. That match, that day was a 3-0 loss that easily could have been 5.
Yeah.
So I guess in this case, in Messi, we trust until otherwise. But 5 feels high.
Yeah, and I mean, he's we know in the recent years he's been banged up some. He's had some injuries and things like that, and this is you got the World Cup year now too. With this, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be going on, and this is a club that it's either sink or swim for them.
Yeah,
obviously, they're champions last year.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. What was that?
I was going to say championship or fail. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. No. Yeah. I mean, I just anything less is not going to cut it for them.
Indeed.
But yeah, I mean, Messi's looking good early, but again, it's early, and but they're a team that I would say would benefit the most from having an early season cushion, you know, because I think they may fizzle out a little bit at the end, you know.
If they don't, they're probably going to rest Messi throughout most of the season because obviously between World Cup and you save him for October.
Right.
You know, this is exactly what they did last year. So their record, I'm going to contradict myself slightly. Their record, you know, in say July isn't going to be relevant. It's their record in October. It's going to matter when they decide to hit the gas and really run. So, I mean, I think the fact that they were 8th last week after getting crushed by LAFC, I think was a little high, but good turnaround win here. But again, like you said, early in the season still.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and I mean it's a long season, and I'm sure that you're right. I mean, they are going to limit Messi, which as you should with his age, and you know you want him to be healthy when it really matters. You know.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
And especially this year.
Oh yeah, because it's going to be a long season, and then on top of it, you have the sprint season next year. So you really have, I'm going to call it a 48 game schedule, 48 game regular season schedule over the course of 16 months.
Yeah.
So you have the 14 game slight break and then ban the regular season. So that's going to take its toll on a player physically, even if they're 25 years old, much less his age. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, this is a glorified CONCACAF here, so you got to wonder what they're going to do with that. But for a lot of the coaching staff and a lot of the trainers, that's a next year problem.
Yeah.
But in Surge and Hanny Mukhtar, we trust. Nashville off to a nice start of their own, but at this point, they're 1-0-1 at this juncture. But Sam Surge is always a fun watch, and typically in the running at least for a Golden Boot until he's not.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Nothing more to say about that. We're good.
Yeah.
I know a team out west though. Vancouver Whitecaps right now. Brian White and Thomas Mueller, Berhalter, and that whole shebang right there. Vancouver was a team that got to the finals, but they looked bad in those finals.
Yeah. Well, that was a good win that they had against Real Salt Lake. That was a good. I know Jackson had his debut goal in that game. And there was some, that was, that was good. I mean, they're a good club.
Yeah,
they're a good club. Can they get it? Can they get it over the hump this year? I don't know. I mean, hey, you came close last year. You came close, but you and I think we had talked about it. I didn't see Inter Miami losing that championship.
No,
I mean, they were destined to win that thing, and
they were destined to win that one. They were destined to beat NYCFC, who at that point was just reeling from the news of losing Alonso Martinez. Correct. So yeah, Inter Miami was hit or miss last year, but once they hit the gas when they were ready, it was cruise control all the way.
Yeah.
All right, San Diego. Always San Diego. Love that team. Love that team. Love that jersey. Love that passion over there.
Yeah. And you blanked St. Louis, clean sheet at St. Louis last night, 2-0. And they're I mean I said it before, they're a team that a lot of I would say a lot of people being an expansion team thought, they're going to have a rough go at it. It hasn't been the case at all. I mean, they're like they're like almost like the equivalent of the Vegas Golden Knights when they first came. I mean, they just they've had they've had some success early on, which is good. So, and I mean that city, after losing the Chargers, after losing, I mean they have really it was a golden opportunity. Right, it was a golden opportunity for this club to really make themselves a staple in that town, and they have. I mean, thus far they really have. If you could say somebody that's doing it right, it's definitely San Diego. Yeah.
And this is exactly what that team needed after what happened last year. Because last year they had a good playoff run, disappointing end, but you needed to have a strong start here to show that it wasn't a fluke. What happened with St. Louis? St. Louis had a good run their first season, got the fans excited, and then dropped off the face of the earth year two.
Right.
San Diego scoring 7 goals and not allowing a single goal in 2 matches so far is exactly what they need to showcase to the fans. Last year was not a fluke. This is your future.
Right.
And that's where I think a lot of excitement for this team comes from.
Yeah, because let's face it, a lot of people thought, oh, this is going to be they're going to have they caught lightning in a bottle. They got lucky their first expansion year. Their true colors are going to show in their second year. You know how everybody, they're going to have a slump, and thus far you're not seeing that. So
yeah,
you're not seeing that at all.
Now, I think in this case, this is the last one that I've got is LAFC. Now, the argument could be made possibly that San Diego, outscoring their opponents 7-0 versus 5-0. Maybe you could make the argument San Diego's number one. But for me, with LAFC and the power that they have, there was a lot of questions when Steve Cherundolo retired at the end of the season if this team was going to be able to continue the success they had before. But at this point, with everybody going on, even without Son in the lineup yesterday, they're still a team to beat out there.
Yeah, and Dennis Bouanga signing that multi-year deal, that extension. He's committed. They're committed to him. And they're a good club. They've got a rabid fan base. We've seen that. I mean, they have a very rabid fan base, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you see them being a dominant force the entire season, or do you kind of see maybe that, hey, they might fall off a little bit?
I think they might have a small fall off, but I think they won't have a bad one. Denny Bouanga is as good as a player can be, and he's been with that team for a long time. Son, obviously, they have, and everybody else in that lineup. This is a team that knows what to do. They play in a city that has a strong fan base in and of itself. And having seen what it was like when I saw U.S. Men's National playing against Korea in a friendly, 90% of the fans at Red Bull Arena were Korean fans. Yeah. So Son will bring the passion there, just like Shohei Ohtani will in LA for the Dodgers. So a team like this, no, I think they can still bring that passion, that fire, and I think it's going to resonate on the pitch. And you see a team like this, yeah. I mean, there's no reason why that team can't make the finals this year.
If you got to go in there and play them, that's a tough place to play.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a tough place to play. I mean, like I said, they have a rabid fan base. They come out in droves. They're loud. They're energetic, and it's not easy to play there. It's not easy to go in. What do they call it? The black hole is what they've been calling it. And I mean, that's just that helps. That definitely helps.
But yeah, no, I think in this case they've got a good squad over there. It's nice to see the West, getting the love, because I think the West gets overshadowed, I think, a little bit sometimes when you see what the East typically has. Atlanta, Charlotte, on a attendance standpoint, Inter Miami. So the West having what they have, I think, is a nice little win for them. So yeah, overall, I can't complain too much about the rankings on this one.
Real quickly, let me ask you about, and when I know we talked a little bit about Atlanta, I just want to get your take. Do you think they're going to be better than do you think that they're going to be leaps and bounds better than what they were last year? Or do you think that they're going to just they're going to improve maybe by 2 or 3 game in the win column?
I think 2 or 3, maybe even 5 games, I think is expected. I think I think what happened last year surprised a lot of people. Nobody, myself included, expected that team to fail the way they did. Early pundits said that they were going to challenge for the MLS Cup final, landed second place behind Inter Miami, and the whole team just floundered. So I think that part of it, you want to showcase to the fans, especially in Atlanta, as big as the fans are, you're going to want to show that last year was a bit of a fluke, and this is where you are now. Now, are they going to be able to get 5th place? Probably not. Can they get 6th, 7th, or 8th? Yeah, I think they can. So they can get a playoff spot to at least make the games relevant later on. But yeah, they'll be better than last year. I think they have to be.
Would you agree that Martino coming back makes this team a lot better?
I think
it makes them.
Yeah, I think it gives the team a lot of confidence. Because what happened with Ronnie Dyla surprised, like I said, a lot of us. The team was disappointed. You needed a stabilizing presence up there and somebody who's had success in the past. Now, Ronnie Dyla did have success in New York, But
Right.
you needed somebody who's like, okay, not a fly-by-the-night, brand new head coach. You wanted somebody that has a professional resume. He has that, and that's the stability you need after the season you had last year.
The only thing I'm going to say is I watched that first game against Cincinnati and Atlanta, and Atlanta played great for 80 minutes. They did. They played they played great for 80 minutes. It was and that's happened to them a lot. It was that final 10 plus stoppage time where they just Cincinnati striked late and they striked often, and that's kind of been their Achilles heel. It was last year too. They were in a lot of games last year, but just weren't able to close it out. Gave up late goals, and that kind of reared its ugly head in that first matchup. And I was like, oh, here we go again. But I think I'm with you. I think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be leaps and bounds better, but I think you're right. I think 4 or 5 wins more is what they're going to be.
They'll be around for October, November. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Not like a team, unfortunately, like say the Canadian teams that are in the East, like Montreal and Toronto. It's disappointment on that side. DC United's been off to a good start too.
Yeah.
So obviously they didn't have the win yesterday, I don't think, but
yeah,
I'm curious to see what Sean Johnson can do back there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think they're going to be an improved team as well. Yep.
But yeah. So I'm good on this side unless you had anything else on yours.
I'm good, Scott. Sounds good.
So cool.
Good stuff.
All right. So yeah. So I have no idea what we're going to call this show yet. I'm still making that up as I go along. But anyway, I'm Scott Churchson. That's Mr. Bill Akins. You can see him on Stream Punk Soccer and also covering the USL Riverhounds, whatever that might be. We'll find that one out as we go.
Keeping fingers crossed.
Yeah, all of us are, I think, at this point too. So, but yeah, thanks as always. Take care. Stay well.